The best. Mmm. Or worst food. Ah. What I ate. Check it out at the best or worst food, whatIate.blogspot.com.
Don't you spend enough time waiting for patches, system updates, and even worse, title updates? On Lag Free, we won't waste your time, and we talk about the topics you want to hear about in a decidedly different fashion. No scripts or four sides here. Listen to Lag Free, recorded and released regularly on Intrepid Audio Productions.
Sort of break it down like this.
Oh, fantastic. He is one of the biggest meatballs on Twitter.
I'm an idiot.
No, that's okay.
Nice to meet you. I'm Mike.
Could you please take back Tim Tebow?
Oh, awesome.
Take college football in touch.
I don't understand where these questions are coming from, Tom. That's about it for Manager's Corner. Go yourself and with your show coming up next on the Baltimore Oriole Baseball Network.
I made a note about college sports, and the note just says college sports in general.
Whammy!
Can't do it.
The changes that have happened in the Cub organization are multifold.
Boogie boogie. Great stuff.
Welcome back to Chicago Sports Update here on Intrepid Audio Productions.
Just to all the listeners, thanks for listening.
Welcome back to Chicago Sports Update here on IP Podcast. This is Matt.
And this is Mike. How you doing?
Yeah, just the two of us recording here on Veterans Day, so happy Veterans Day. Thank you to all you servicemen and women who happen, if you are listeners, thank you for your service. And, well, we're coming off of a really stupid Bears loss, and I guess that's the only way that I can come to terms with it, simply because Cutler had a very good first half. He seemed to be toughing through the injury, and amazingly, the commentators were talking about his toughness and how that's ever been questioned, which is, frankly, a bold-faced lie, especially from Fox Sports, who had one writer overly critical of his quote-unquote toughness. So, that being said, he did not come out to perform in the second half the way that he did in the first, and stayed in for far too long.
He was left in for far too long. He didn't stay in for far too long. As is my understanding of the situation, he's not in charge of when he plays. Your head coach is, I think. And then you had your head coach come out today and say that he made a mistake. He should have brought him in. He should have brought in McCown earlier. It's McCown, not McNown, too, because I hear a lot of people saying McNown, even people who should not be saying that. This is aside from people who call into radio shows, local radio shows. These are people in the media. But whatever. I just think, there was a lot of problems I had with it. You could see at the end of the first half that something was up. You knew it was there. If Fox Sports is on top of it and they're telling you about it, they're noticing it. Then I don't think you look past something like that. I don't understand. I mean, I guess I could see him playing into the third quarter. He was effective for parts of the third quarter, but I just really didn't understand, especially the way that McCown is played. Like if it was a situation we've experienced, I don't know, for the past 20 years, where the backup was absolute crap and you knew he could not run the system effectively, like Caleb Haney could run the system in practice, but it's just practice.
Yeah,
and you're throwing your Allen Iverson right there. But it's just practice. This guy can run it in the game, and he runs it effectively, and he doesn't make mistakes. Who was I listening? I was listening to one of our local radio shows this morning. I was listening to our buddy Lawrence Holmes, who was sitting with your buddy Spiegel today. But they were talking about how. I don't know who they had on, if it was who said it, but they were talking about how, they have, the perfect backup.
Yeah.
He's old, but he's not too old. He can run the system effectively. He doesn't want the starting job. It's not like that's what he's doing. if you draft like the heir apparent, he will be more than willing to help out mold whoever you pick. So you got like this guy, like why I don't know. And then they put another spin on it, which is a really good way to look at it. If you play him and you win that game, you're looking at your next 3 games coming up are, nothing's cake in the NFL, but it looks like you probably have a chance to do something with those games, and you give him an extra week of rest, and then you know what? Next week, I think they play. Do they play St. Louis or Pittsburgh next week? I can't remember.
Next week's Baltimore.
Baltimore, that's what it is. Then the other 2 are after that. You're playing Baltimore, who, yes, defending Super Bowl champions, but this year has not been so great. So it's definitely a winnable game that you have, and you could almost effectively make the argument that if you would have started McCown in this past game against Detroit, and you did all right, you could almost start him against Baltimore.
No, you're right, and that's what we saw going. I mean, this is it. Almost seems like these past 2 weeks have been flipped, where everyone was expecting, including us, we were expecting the apocalypse with, Green Bay to just run complete roughshod over the Bears, march up and down the field. That's not the case. Aaron Rodgers gets injured, and the game is up for grabs. Bears grab hold of it, run a systematic offense, and everyone contributes. McCown does a good job, does a more than superior adequate job in running this offense, and
the line's been unbelievable, unbelievable, and it's a real shame that they didn't make that not. And don't get me wrong, I don't think Cutler did a bad job for when he was healthy enough to do the job, but there came a point in that game, and it was an obvious point where he shouldn't be in there anymore.
Yeah, and when you're overthrowing, well, the way that he was throwing, I mean, it was all over the place. It was so erratic, and that was because, well, no, it wasn't a breakdown of fundamentals. It was a breakdown of his body and the fact that he couldn't do that. You need a quarterback needs his groin muscle in order, a healthy groin muscle, in order to torque, push off, make the correct throw, the throws that he's certainly shown to be capable of. Just wasn't the case in the second half. I think, man, I at least Trustman has the presence of mind to know the fact that he made a galactic mistake here.
It's awesome, because if it was Lovey, he would have defended his mistake somehow. But no, I like it, but at the same time, it's kind of like, well, if you're realizing it now, where's the there was a lot of problems I had with it, and this is the other problem I had with it is down the stretch. I don't know if you noticed this. They brought up the fact that him being last in the Canadian Football League, that in the last 2 minutes of the game, they stop the clock after every play, so you have like infinite chances to come back if you can get the ball back. And they quoted Trestman as saying something to the effect of he was used to having the clock stop in the last 2 minutes, and you'd have to get like used to the NFL game. But I'm like, you this, so you're pointing it out. You coach in the NFL, so you shouldn't have a problem with it. It just seemed a little bit weird. I think he should know that that's what you do. And not only that, like I said, like we've both talked about, you have a more than able-bodied backup in the NFL.
Yeah. Okay?
And I understand that, I know who they're talking to but they're talking to Jim Miller, right? And Jim Miller was talking about, I can't remember what year it was, he had a partial tear of his rotator cuff. And he was supposed to not be playing, right? It was like a 4-week injury or something like that. And Chris Chandler is starting for him maybe, and in the first series goes out with a concussion. So Miller had to come in and play and suck it up, right? So what I mean, yeah, you risk, the whole you lose your backup if he goes down, but you're so big on Cutler's toughness. Why can't he come back in that fashion? You know what I mean? If he really needs to, and what I mean, how it's even more dramatic than coming back
True.
from an
Even better for
injury. You know what
ratings,
I
yeah.
mean?
Better narrative.
I
Yeah.
mean, I just didn't see the. Honestly, it was funny. I was talking to my dad Sunday morning, and I hadn't heard the decision yet that he was playing on Sunday. So my dad said something about it, and I'm like, and I just thought about it in my head. I'm like, that seems weird. I'm like, why are they playing him? Why? I don't get it. Like, he had this injury, and then when he had it, people were like, "Oh, it's a 4 week injury," and then some people were like, "Well, it's a little bit longer. He might not be back in 4 weeks." And so you don't know what to make of it. Yeah, the doctors cleared him to play, but there's things you got to look at, and there's you should have I don't know, like maybe you should have a contingency plan in that says, if he has any discomfort at any point, we give him, 2 series of downs after that, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and it seemed like it was certainly a possibility. I mean, you had the Lions practically giving you the game in the fourth quarter. That's when the Lions diverted to what we know as the stupid Detroit Lions and giving you penalties, giving you free yards. I mean, in the last drive that the Bears had, they were giving 30% of the field. I mean, 2 15-yard penalties.
They gave him they gave him an extra chance for 2 points.
Yeah,
Which that's another problem with the play calling, because there was 2 horrible play calls for a 2-point conversion. Yeah. There was one, and you had a second chance to make the difference. Dude, Marshall and Jeffrey weren't even on the field for the first attempt.
And then when they are on the field, you run it.
I mean, I understand Cutler's getting them the ball, but they were both making plays all game long. You don't have either of them in. You're going to a running play. Like that was a call I had a problem with. I had a problem with them going on. I don't like the way they use Michael Bush. Either use him or don't.
Yeah.
Because you bring him into a game and you're like, okay, there's just things I didn't like. They bring in Bush to okay, get a 4th down. I know he's your short yard specialist, but the guy never seems to get any snaps. And then you throw him in there for this. The whole thing, again, back to the you should have changed your quarterback. So you don't change your quarterback until the 2-minute warning and the last drive that you have, and you're like, hey, go get us 8 points. You know what he did? He went down the field and he scored a touchdown. He did everything he was supposed to do, and their play calling failed them for the 2-point conversion. I'm not saying if you pass it to Marshall or Jeffrey or run another play, you absolutely get it, but it seemed like you ran the same play twice, and I know it wasn't the same play, but you did the same thing.
Yeah, they failed in that aspect. This is one that, amazingly, we can't blame the players on this one. We do our best here to hold everybody accountable in every phase to see who makes the mistakes. We'll hold them accountable. We'll say, hey, this is what happened. This is who failed this game. This is a clear misstep and a clear shortcoming from management, from coaching, and it's very frustrating to see that, especially when you have experienced individuals throughout the NFL helping somebody in a first-time experience in head coaching. I mean, this isn't. You would think that their QB coach, the offensive, the defensive coordinator, special teams coach, anyone could have been out there to say, hey, someone has to have his ear and say, hey, you can't do this. Yeah. He's not right. I mean, I know everyone, including Brandon Marshall, is saying that Jay Cutler at 80% is better than half the quarterbacks at 100%. While that's probably true, he wasn't even 80%. Yeah, but he wasn't even 50%.
But his backup was like matching his numbers.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy that over 6 quarters of playing time,
he's got a passer rating of over 100.
Oh yeah, a near perfect passer rating.